What's going on, guys? One last video for today. Um, Talked a little bit earlier, a couple of videos ago, about Charlo possibly moving up to 168 if he's not able to get Canelo Alvarez or Demetrius Andrade. Um, can't knock him. I think he's what, 29, almost 30 next year. So, yeah, it's like what I said about Earl Spence and Keith Thurman. You don't want to, spend your career chasing, chasing other fighters. I think it's sad that it's come down to that. But you could argue Charlo could have fought, or they should have fought, years ago. Back when Canelo was at 154. Um, instead of fighting, Liam Smith and um, who was he fighting? Amir Khan. He could have fought Charlo. He could have rematched. Canelo could have fought Charlo. Either Charlo. He could have rematched Trout. Could have rematched Lara. Could have fought Vadas Martin Rosen. Could have fought J Rock. Any of those fights would have been better than a Liam Smith. Um, they could have fought back then. Hell, they could have even fought in 2015, back when Charlo was an early champion. Um, I know Jermall Charlo was. I think that was one of the main reasons why Jermall Charlo left Golden Boy. It's because back in 2014 he was supposed to get a shot at Canelo Alvarez, but was not able to, and then he left. And then he was supposed to fight Demetrius Andrade, but Demetrius Andrade didn't like the money, so that fight didn't happen in 2014. But it's a shame that we got a lot of fights that would have been good, but we didn't get. For X or Y reason. Look at Charlo versus Hurd. Now that fight is completely tainted. Charlo lost to Tony Harrison, close fight. I had Charlo winning by maybe a round, but it was a close fight, so I wasn't mad that Tony Harrison got the win. To be honest with you, I might pick Tony Harrison to beat Charlo in the rematch. Not 100% sure, but I'm leaning in that direction right now. Um, and with Jermall Charlo, didn't look great in his last fight versus Korobov. I did think he won, but I thought he won close. Um, I think half that fight was more of him mentally getting over the shock of his brother losing versus Tony Harrison. So I think the first, 3 or 4 rounds, mentally, he just was not in the right space. It's not an excuse, you're still a professional, you got to handle your business, but I think that did play a part into his performance versus Korobov. And Korobov is a good fighter, you know. Probably 5, 6 years ago, Korobov, Dmitry Pirog, Triple G, all these, Eastern European, Soviet Union cats were heavily avoided in the middleweight division. In the 2012 through 2014 um, year range. Nobody was really trying to fight these guys. These guys were kind of unknown, unproven, um, but they looked the part. And we just saw, Korobov versus Aleem a couple of weeks ago. He looked real strong early and then kind of faded a little bit late, but I thought he did win. I think they called it a draw with him versus Emmanuel Aleem. I think that was the wrong decision. I thought Korobov did enough to win that fight, um, but they called it a draw, so I kind of felt bad for him. So you can argue in his last 2 fights, he kind of got, snobbed a little bit. So I feel for Matt Korobov. He's a game fighter. I've always said I wouldn't mind seeing Charlo rematch. I'd rather actually see Charlo rematch Korobov than this fight with Brandon Adams. Or if Charlo can't get another fight, beat Korobov in a rematch. Um, I've always supported that. I always support rematches that make sense. Um, if Charlo, if he takes care of Brandon Adams, I think he should fight. I think he should fight Derevchenko next. To be honest, it'd be a good barometer test between him and Jacobs, who just fought Canelo Alvarez. Um, it's a different style than Korobov. Derevchenko's going to bring the fight to him. Um, didn't look great versus Jack Kukale, but again, Jack Kukale is one of those fighters that no one looks good against. Demetrius Andrade went to Germany and fought him. Didn't look great. Thought he won, but he didn't look great. I thought Deverchenko beat Jack Kukle, but again, didn't look great. So some fighters, they're just kind of odd, tough, weird power, so they're kind of hard to look good against. So, I think that's just them facing, kind of a cagey veteran, awkward, decent power, a little bit rugged. So he's kind of one of those guys in boxing. You're probably not, unless you're like, a Floyd or Andre Ward, probably not going to have a clean performance against him no matter what you do. Um, I would like to see Charlo versus Deverchenko if he can't get a Canelo Demetrius Andrade fight. I think it's that's probably the biggest fight he can get at 160 at the moment. To be honest, Jacobs. I think he's still with DAZN, at least as far as I know. Um, like I said, DAZN seems pretty dead set on getting Canelo versus Triple G3. Longest Triple G takes care of business versus Steve Rolls. Um, I don't think the buzz is really there for Canelo Triple G3, but it's a good rubber match. Why not? They're gonna hash it out once and for all. I don't think Charlo should yet move up to 168, just because I get why he wants to. Um, 'Cause I'm sure his patience is gonna be wearing thin. I don't think the WBC is going to order that fight anytime soon. Um, but you never know. He just he might have to be a tad more patient. I know it's I know he's been really starving for a big fight for a long time. Um, and you could argue his biggest fights have really been Trout, J Rock. It's about it. Fights that fans anticipated. So we really don't know how good Jermall Charlo is. I think he's the goods. I think he's a really good fighter. I think he could be the guy to beat at 160, but we won't really know until he's actually, in there with somebody. So, um, if a Korobov rematch don't happen, I would like to see him versus Deverchenko. I think that's a fight they could easily make. It's against a top 7 middleweight. You're both with BBC, you fight in the same network, so I don't see how that's a hard fight to make. I think that's an easy fight. I would try to do it. He's fighting on June 29th, end of the month, so they made that fight for like October, early November. I think they should do it, good stay busy fight against a top 7 opponent, good barometer test. And then next year, um, go for the Triple G Canelo winner or for Demetrius Andrade. You guys got some history, so I don't think he should quite give up on the middleweight division, mainly because we don't know how good he is at 160. So if he was to move up again to 168, I really wouldn't be able to gauge where he's at really, because I haven't seen him against a top, 5 guy at middleweight. Korobov I'd say is top 10, but he's not top 5. And he didn't look great against Korobov. I mean, I get the circumstance, like I said earlier, but at the end of the day, you still had a subpar performance. That doesn't change that. So, um, like I said, either rematch Korobov or fight Deverchenko, who, is a solid middleweight. He's high on, I'm pretty sure every ranking for the middleweight division. And it's a good stay busy fight. You should stay somewhat active. Like I said, I wouldn't give up on 160 yet if I'm Jermall Charlo. I get why. So I don't blame him if he does make that move. I won't blame him at all. Blame it at all, excuse me. But I think he's just wait a little bit longer. Um, maybe he can fight the Canelo Triple G3 winner. Because then there wouldn't be an excuse. He could go for Demetrius Andrade. I don't think Canelo wants to fight Demetrius Andrade. Triple G don't want to fight him. So if you're able to beat Demetrius Andrade, which again I've said there's some history there. There's been some trash talking between Andrade and the Charlos. Really, all the East Coast dudes versus the Texas dudes. J Rock. I don't know if people know this, but J Rock and his team were saying that Charlo was on Peds years ago, which is what led to their beef. You know, um, Demetrius Andrade, he took shots at Earl Spence. He took shots at Jermall Charlo, saying he's on the juice, even though, there's no evidence of that. None of them have failed a drug test. Canelo actually did fail a drug test. He got caught in clenbuterol. I like how that's, no one ever talks about that, Let's just skirt that, by Canelo was caught on clenbuterol. That's why the rematch for Triple G had to wait till September. Um, but you want to just throw shots at them, okay. So it's got a good backstory. It's a good match. They're both in their prime. Demetrius Andrade, kind of the same boat as Jermall Charlo. We think he's the goods, but we haven't seen him in there with a top five guy in his division. You know, Vadas Rosen is a good win. Willie Nelson is a good win. Um, if he beats Selecki, that would be a solid win. But again, that's more of a top 10, top 7 guy. But how would he look against someone who's top 5? My top 5 would be Canelo, Triple G, no order. Canelo, Triple G, Charlo, Andrade, Jacobs. Those are the top 5. So um, I think Andrade Charlo would be a great fight. Love to see it. I think Jermall Charlo has said he is open to going to the zone. Just got to make it worth his while. But so hopefully we can get that. If Andrade can beat Selecki, we can get Charlo versus Andrade end of the year, and then Canelo Triple G rubber match, and then the winners can meet early next year, and then you can get an undisputed middleweight champ, and then whoever wins that, move up to 168 and do your thing. I think that's how boxing should be done. Take care of business in your own division. Clean house in your division, fight all the top guys, and if you're feeling young and spry, go for it. But if I'm Jermall Charlo, I would wait just a little bit. It's not. I don't think it's over. I don't know the situation though, so this is me speaking completely from the outside. I have no idea what's going on with him in that regard. So, but hopefully he'll stick around just a little bit longer. I know it's asinine that he's even having to do this, but it's just how boxing is nowadays, at the very least. But hopefully we'll change that. But let me know what you guys think about Jermall Charlo in his future at 160 or at 168. Do you think he'll do well at 168? Do you agree with me and think he should, stick around just a little bit longer and try to get those fights? Fight other guys in the division, like I said, Korobov or Derevchenko in the meantime. But yeah, drop comments, like, subscribe, stay tuned. Take it easy.